Five flags or flag theory is something that I wish someone had told me about before I moved to South America. Because you see, back in 2022, when I left the US, I wasn't thinking about sovereignty or escaping the system. I just wanted a better quality of life. I just wanted better purchasing power, better cost of living, better dating environment, better weather, less woke culture, less political tension, right? And the list goes on. But once I discovered something called five flags, it completely shifted the way I think about sovereignty, passports, residency, and freedom itself. And again, I wish I had understood this before I started traveling because it completely would have shifted how I structured my life starting from day one when I left. So in this video, I'm gonna break down what five flags actually is, why it matters than most people realize, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it so that you can start building real freedom and real sovereignty abroad. One simple shift in how you structure your life internationally can legally limit your exposure to one single government and one single banking system, and that alone can change everything. By the way, if you're new here, my name's Alex. I left the US back in 2022 through building location independent income. Now I built an international life setup here in South America, and I help other men do the same. So let's dive in. So this might be one of the most important videos that I've done so far because sovereignty and freedom is one of my highest values. And if I can help other men achieve that, then that is something that is important to me. So let's dive in because a lot of you have never heard of five flags or flag theory in general. So this is going to be specific. I mean, it's really for men or women, but obviously my channel is mostly men. So for men in USA, Canada, UK, parts of Western Europe, such as Germany, Netherlands, a lot of you are from there. Obviously Australia, right? Who are ready to internationalize their lives. So I got to give credit where credit's due. So people who have put me on to flag theory are Andrew Henderson at Nomad Capitalist and also Caleb Jones. They're the ones who spoke heavily on this and where I got a lot of my information from. And I learned that everyone's situation is a little different, right? In terms of your income, how much money you earn. You usually, if you earn somewhere between like under, let's say 150 to 200, that's one group. If you're over 200K per year, that's another group. Obviously, that your income being location independent is important as well. Assets, what assets you own. Your lifestyle, your interest, whether you speak different languages, right? There is no one size fits all solution when it comes to this. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to explain what it is, but I'm also going to give you a bare minimum that you can set up for yourself, even if you've never been international before, even if you've never traveled, even if you're just digital nomading around, anyone can do this stuff to set up a basic level that I'm going to recommend for you at the end of this video. All right. Now, this is especially important, again, if you are from these Western countries that I mentioned, and you're tied to just one government, right? You're tied to one government, one banking system, one passport. And also, if you guys are digital nomads, if you're just visa hopping around like I did, staying in different countries for 3-6 months at a time, because you don't really need anything long-term or any residencies or any passports for that. You already have your Western home country passport. Then this is going to be especially for you guys, okay? Because you guys are in their position to really take advantage of this. And this stuff does not require a lot of money. It does not require tons of hassle. Again, I think anyone can do this. This is what I believed before I started traveling. I thought, oh, that stuff is for either like very wealthy people or people who are, I guess, next level, like sovereignty, freedom seekers, right? But I'm telling you, this is important and this is affordable for just about anyone. If you're watching this video, this is for you. So I recommend you watch until the end. So here's the problem that most of you have, and you probably aren't even aware of it like I wasn't. I wasn't even aware that I had this problem. And the problem is you have one country that dominates every area of your life. Whether you live in USA or if you're digital nomading around, right, with a USA passport, your life is still 100% reliant on the USA. And here's why it's a problem. Governments are changing, right? These governments are becoming more authoritarian. They're raising taxes and it's only going to keep increasing. They're increasing more regulation. They're expanding surveillance. And this is what governments actually do historically, okay? This isn't something new. This is what happens over time as governments grow. So if your passport, if your tax residence, if your bank accounts, if your business, if your home, if your entire life setup is all in just one single country, then you are fully exposed to that political system. And to me, that is a very fragile place to be because when you have just one passport, one banking system, even worse, just one bank account, one job, one country, you don't have freedom, you have dependency. And you are more vulnerable to these changes that are happening here. So the solution here is flag theory. Now, let me explain. So flag theory helps you diversify and ultimately internationalize your life across different countries according to what you value the most. And the more portable you are, the harder you are to control, the easier it is for you to relocate, and the more freedom and sovereignty that you're going to have. And here's why this matters. Like, I'll speak to you, some of you digital nomad guys, right? Who are just visa hopping, right? You don't have any residencies. You just rely on the passport, right? The U.S. passport. So let's say COVID were to happen again, or some type of black swan event, which a lot of people are predicting will happen again, right? Based off how the world reacted to it. If you have certain flags set up, then you now have a place where you can live long term outside of your Western home country. Or if your country were to completely collapse or just become completely chaotic, you now have a place to call home where they will accept you long term. All right. If you were just visa hopping, that is not true. You would not be able to enter your favorite country if you are just using your tourist visa. I've also noticed that governments treat you differently when they know that you can always leave, right? Your income isn't tied locally to that economy. Your assets are local, right? You don't own many assets there. And you also have another passport or another residency outside the country, right? Because they're not able to control you. What you are is a sovereign individual. So who is this for? This is for anyone exposed to pandemic travel bans, as I just mentioned, bank freezes, tax law changes, political unrest, capital controls, and the list goes on. So now let's specifically go over the 5 flags. Now, I just want to make it clear, you don't need all of these flags, all right? Again, everyone's situation is a little different. Other people have more options than others, but this is just going to go over the different types of flags so you get an understanding. And then I'm going to give you a recommendation of the bare minimum that I recommend for you guys that watch this channel, or for me. Basically what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm talking to my previous self, just in case you weren't aware, right? Before I left the US, what would my 29, 31-year-old self, when he was, thinking about all this stuff, what would he want? What should he have known before he left to make his life much easier, more convenient, more free, more sovereign? So here's 5 flags for you. The first one is the passport flag, right? This is where you have citizenship. It's also ideal to have a backup passport, but technically if you just have, your US passport, that is considered your passport flag. Now, a reason why I recommend having a backup passport, and something that I'm working on here this year in 2026, my goal is to have a second passport, which I might go into in this video. But you never know if other countries change their visa-free travel based off your country. Look at Brazil, for example, right? Brazil now made it a little more difficult for US citizens to travel to Brazil. And this is true. This is going to be more and more true if the US keeps doing what they're doing. I mean, certain events happen. What's today? Today is March 3rd. So I'm not going to go into specifics, what's been going on, because you guys already know. But as more of that happens, right, as we invade other countries aren't going to like that. So they might change their regulations when it comes to visa-free traveling for US citizens, for example. Also, if your country goes more authoritarian or tax heavy, or maybe they even revoke your passport for whatever reason because you don't agree to some of the law changes, perhaps, who knows? It's good to have a backup passport for that reason. All right, then enough on that flag. Next flag is the residency flag. So this is where you legally reside long-term, right? This gives you the legal right to stay, to live long-term, to have banking access, to exchange your US currency into, for me, for example, Guarani. And some countries offer territorial tax systems, which means they only tax local income, nothing outside of the country. Other countries have easy residency paths. 2 examples real quick are Mexico and Paraguay are very popular for this type of a flag because you don't have to live there long-term to get residency in those countries. So even if you're someone who's living in the US, you've never been anywhere international, you never left the US, for example, you can still get a residency flag in certain countries without living there, okay, which is important. The next flag is the business flag. So for those of you who have companies that are registered, this is where you're going to register that company, that LLC. Goals being you want lower corporate taxes, you want better legal protection, you want asset protection, you want banking flexibility. Many of you probably won't need to worry about this flag just yet, but it is considered an important flag. There's also the asset flag, like where your assets or your money is actually held. Could be precious metals, right? Gold, silver. Where do you actually keep that? Other diversification might include foreign bank accounts, which I recommend everyone have at least one foreign bank account. Any brokerage accounts you hold abroad. Again, where you store your precious metals. Real estate. If you guys plan on owning real estate, where do you want to own that? And this reduces single country banking dependency. And then the last flag, which all of you will probably end up having, is a lifestyle flag, right? This could be where you like to date. Where you like to network with like-minded individuals, where you maybe buy certain items for the arbitrage. This flag is more about quality of life, all right? Like Colombia, for example, cities like Medellin or Mexico City or Buenos Aires or Lima, Peru. These are good choices for men from USA, Canada, who are seeking a lifestyle flag. And bigger cities tend to offer more fun optionality, right? A lot of dating options, a lot of great people to network with. So this is basically considered your playground flag. And again, I just want to iterate, you don't need all of these flags, okay? You just need a bare minimum. So here's what you should do. And here's what I did, all right? Here's what I'm going to recommend for my 29 to 31-year-old self at the time. All right, you don't need all 5 flags. I'm going to share the bare minimum we should do. Anyone, I want to make this clear too, anyone can do this. If you think you can't afford this, if you think you're not ready for this, you are wrong. All right, if you're watching this, that means you should do it. And again, a lot of this advice that I'm going to give you, I learned from Nomad Capitalist and also Caleb Jones. So I just want to give credit where credit's due. And 2 things I want to mention before I give that advice. So flag theory only works long term if 2 things are true. Number 1, you actually build location independent income. Okay. Now you can still set up and internationalize your life without building location independent income. It just means that you can't live in that country long term, because how are you going to support yourself financially? So this should always be, in my opinion, your number 1 priority is actually building some type of location independent income. I'm actually building a community on that, and I'm serious about it this time. I'll probably launch it sometime in April, but more on that, in other videos. The second thing is internationalizing your life. All right. And again, you don't need 5 flags, but I do recommend you start with the bare minimum. Anyone can do this, and there's 4 levels. All right. So let's go over the 4 levels. So here are the levels of internationalizing your life. Number 1, a lot of people do this. I did this in the beginning for 2.5 to 3 years. It's called nomading, right? Digital nomading around. And this is what most of you are doing, right? You live abroad for most of the year or maybe all year round without having a base or without having a rooted home. Now, I think this is a great idea. I don't have any problems with being a nomad. I plan on being a nomad again because I want to visit more countries in South America. I want to visit Africa, Southeast Asia, and I plan to nomad those places, right? Because I already know my base. My base is here in Paraguay for now, in case unless anything changes. But nomading is great when you're searching for your future home. This is exactly what I did, right? I traveled to multiple different cities, I think at least 12. Or if you just want to have fun, you just want to travel, you just want to experience, maybe you want to be a tourist, you want to just check out different sites, maybe you just want to date. And I think it's best for younger guys without attachments. Maybe you don't have any spouses, you don't have any kids. Perfect to do that. But the thing is, it's almost always temporary. I've never met one person who wants to nomad for the rest of their lives and who actually end up doing it for the rest of their lives. Eventually, you're going to want to settle down somewhere, usually between 2 to 5 years, somewhere around there, just because it's actually convenient, right? It's nice to have one place that you live year round. You have your desk, you have all your things, you have your setup, you have your network of friends, you have the women that you date, you have your grocery store, your everything around you is already convenient for you to maybe just focus on projects, right? It's tough to work on projects and digital nomad at the same time. But even putting that aside, right? Again, if there were a black swan event, you're kind of screwed, right? Because you don't belong anywhere except your home country, right? Which leaves you exposed. So visa hopping to me is not a solution to the problem that I went over in the beginning of this video. Level 2 is where we actually find a solution to the problem. This is where sovereignty begins. And this is where you get residency or at least an international backup plan. So if a problem ever occurred in your home country, such as an economic collapse or a pandemic or a government crackdown or a war, which some people are predicting could happen, then what you could do is leave that country that's going through these issues, and you can just go to your backup country while everyone else, unfortunately, is kind of screwed. And this is going to require you to have legal residency in that country, whether it's temporary residency or permanent residency. It doesn't matter. I think temporary is fine because temporary always leads to permanent eventually. Now, again, if you don't have location independent income, the question comes in is how are you going to sustain yourself long-term financially? Maybe you have a lot in savings, but I think it's always good to have income come in for obvious reasons. So you obviously can't live there long-term without location independent income, but you can still get residency in many of these countries, even if you're still stuck in your home country. The barrier to entry is still pretty low. Countries such as Paraguay, Ecuador, Mexico, you could get these residencies without living there long term. And the easiest one that I've come across, even if you don't have a lot of money, are definitely Mexico and Paraguay for a very nominal amount that most of you guys can afford. Like I got Paraguay residencies for less than $2,000, guys. Okay, links in the description if you guys want to use my residency specialist. Less than $2,000. He starts at $1,450, guys. $1,450 to get residency in another country without living there. That is not going to exist for much longer. I won't be surprised if after this year, that's no longer a thing. Mexico is another one. Mexico, you can get residencies for relatively affordable, right? All you really need is an attorney and you have to hit the minimum income requirements or savings requirements for Mexico. But once you do have residency, this allows you to set up bank accounts. It allows you to transfer money from your US account to now your foreign bank account. And I use Wise for that. Wise is a good app that you can use to basically transfer your USD into a completely different currency. Now you can avoid currency risk as well. There's like Resolute, but I won't go too deep into the tools that you can use for this stuff. Now, level 3 is where I'm currently at now. Okay, this is when you completely move out of your country and you live permanently in a different country for at least, we'll just say, a little more than 6 months out of the year, right? For me personally, I spend about 8 to 9 months out of the year in Paraguay. I still like to travel. I still like to discover new places. So I still plan on traveling for at least 3 to 4 months out of the year. And this is where you have full legal residency in that country, right? Meaning you're renting long-term. You have leases set up with your landlord. You have bank accounts opened up in that country. You have a debit card that you can use in that country. You consider this place your home, right? This is your home base. And ideally, in my opinion, I like it to be a territorial tax country, or at least a low tax country, if saving money is important to you, right? And if your income is also scalable. So one of the things I recommend when it comes to building location independent income is to have scalable income, right? Whether you're in remote sales or you're building a personal brand, there's a lot of different ways you can make income with a personal brand. That's what's really cool about it. So the more videos I make, the more partnerships, the more people I meet, the more opportunities I have to grow my income. And I want to save as much as that as possible so that I can invest more, save more, spend more into my quality of life, my family, my community. And in my opinion, this is what makes Paraguay a very strong option here for a lot of men who are living in the West, right? Mexico, I mentioned, is relatively simple as far as ease of residency, but it is not a territorial tax country. So I'll let you do your homework on that. And there's also other things that I don't love about Mexico, right? I won't get into it in this video, but I've done a video on that if you guys want to check it out. And then level 4 is where 5 flags or multiple flags and multiple homes comes into play. This is where you have multiple residencies, maybe multiple passports. You have assets all over the world, different foreign bank accounts. Maybe you have businesses spread out across the globe for maybe tax purposes or for legal protection or asset protection. And this is where things can get a little bit extreme, right? Where people can go crazy with 5 flags. So don't get me wrong, man. All this stuff is pretty cool too. This just makes you more sovereign. I think it's more for high net worth individuals. But for you guys watching this video, I'm going to recommend you focus on level 2. If you're someone who doesn't have location independent income yet, focus on level 2. And for you nomads who are traveling around the globe, you're just visa hopping, then you guys should focus on level 3 eventually. You can also get level 2 as well, because you're still maybe you're still looking for that ideal country for you or that ideal city for you. But eventually you will most likely, I can't say guaranteed, right? You will most likely want to base somewhere and live somewhere, maybe build a family somewhere. And this is where becoming an expat comes in. This is where having an actual base to live long-term comes in. All right, so the big point that I want to come across, guys, again, if I'm talking to my 29 to 31-year-old self, I want him to know that this is something that's achievable for you. And now in 2026, especially, it's super important for, let's say, if I didn't have this done, this would be, in 2025, this was the number one thing on my mind that I wanted to get done. I had to get residency in a country. I had to open up a bank account in a different country, okay? And I know maybe you can sense that urgency that I have that a lot of you probably don't have, but I want you to know that, first off, anyone can do this, okay? Anyone can. In my opinion, everyone should do this, especially in the world that we live in today. And that's exactly why I created a relationship with my residency specialist. And that's why I created a relationship with my residency specialist here in Paraguay, because I know a lot of you do a lot of research on YouTube, you see different prices, and most guys are still pretty affordable. I mean, even if you're spending 5K, 4K, 3K for a residency, I mean, come on, man. We're talking about residency, opening up bank accounts. But I understand not a lot of you have even 3 to 5K in your savings. So my residency specialist can get this done for you for as affordable as $14.50. That's the lowest. And that's going to be more affordable than anyone else you'll find on YouTube. And that's not the only reason why I chose him. What's most important is that someone gets this done for you fast and efficiently. And I actually tested this with Bettina, who is my residency attorney, with Alejandro, right? A lot of you guys have reached out to me. I've referred you first to Bettina. And then now I'm referring you guys to Alejandro. Alejandro just gets things done. He's more professional. He's better at communication. He's more responsive. So that's why I'm now only exclusively working with Alejandro. He's not my residency specialist. So if you guys are serious about getting this done, you guys can apply. Links in the description. It's completely free, the application. And if you qualify based off your answers, then Alejandro will also set up a free call with you as well. Or if you're still not serious yet, if you're still not sure if this is something you actually want to do, if you don't even have that much in savings right now, then you can still get my Paraguay residency checklist, which is going to go over step by step what you'll need to at least start moving in the right direction. And if you guys don't want to use my residency specialist, that's completely cool. There's a ton of different other people you can use, again, on YouTube, off YouTube. I'm confident that anyone can get this done for you. It's not super difficult. But the point is, Take some action, man. The world is changing fast. Your freedom, your sovereignty depends on the steps that you take today. This is only going to get more difficult moving into the future. So start taking some action. If you guys want to learn about my experience specifically, as far as me getting residency in one single trip, just half a day, then I did an entire video on that. You can watch it right here, and I'll see you there.